Hi, everyone. I just wanted to take a moment as you're preparing to write your autoethnography essays to draw your attention to a couple of specific things about those essays. So there's a few different things, that essay is supposed to do. One thing that it's supposed to do is supposed to bring together all of the things that we've been doing so far. It's supposed to use primary evidence, secondary evidence, self-analysis, and bringing them all together in your writing in a way that's integrated and coherent. So we want our essays to be reliable, we want them to be credible, we want them to use evidence from each of those sources, we want to be concise. I'm really trying to think about how analysis begins with ourselves. So how all of these things that we've been thinking about, primary sources, secondary sources, the use of evidence, credibility, reliability, can be used to explore our own identities. So in this first half of the semester, that's what we're looking at. You're analyzing yourself through the lens of these other sources. So the main thing that you have to do is to choose some kind of identity category that you either fit into or that has been applied to you, and to analyze how it works, or how it has affected your perception and experience of the world in some specific way. And the goal of the paper is to figure out that specific way. So for example, when I was 12, I was on a academic team, and I was on the math team, and we were competing in a math competition. We won, we did well. After the competition ended, another young man came up to me and congratulated me on winning, which was great. And then he said he had never been beat in math by a girl. And if I was writing this autoethnography, I might think about that moment and think about that was a moment in which gender and mathematical ability, or gender and scholastic ability, or just gender and ability in general, were joined together for me in a way they never had been before. In that moment, I've learned something about how gender was going to affect my life. Like, I had never really thought about the idea that gender, being a girl, would have anything to do with whether I was good at math. But in that moment, those two things became connected to each other. So if I was writing this essay, I might choose that moment, that story, as a way then to explore the way in which, I'm sorry about the sun, the way in which gender and academic ability are sometimes linked. If I wanted to bring in scholarly sources, I would then look at potentially sources that deal with women in STEM. Because if we're taught at a young age that it's weird for a girl to be good at math, we might want to think about how that then affects our perceptions of ability later on. So that's what this paper would start to try to think about, is the ways in which gender and ability were connected for me. And that's what you're trying to do, to think either about a way in which some identity category gets linked to some other quality for you, or the ways in which other people have applied those categories to you, or perhaps you've never experienced your identity being something that's limiting or defining of you. Then you should think about why that is. Like, what in your life has allowed you to escape those kinds of designations? So that's the goal with this first paper. The first research essay it's a smaller version of a larger research paper. It's about yourself and how you bring other evidence in to discuss and analyze yourself. It still needs a thesis, and we're going to keep thinking about that over the course of the semester. Right now, we're really focusing on use of evidence, so I care a lot more about that, and we'll pay a lot more attention to that in the grading, though thesis still matters. There is a rubric that's posted that you should be able to look at, or that there will be soon. Sorry, I'm putting that up this week. In the second half of the semester, we'll do the same kind of research, but we're going to look outwards at other groups of people, and it's going to be a longer project. So this is kind of a small version that we're expanding into something larger. It's going to go through 3 drafts. You're going to get feedback from your peers, and you're going to get feedback from me, and then you'll turn in the final draft. There are some examples posted in the course menu. If you look under research and reference help, there's some student autoethnographies there. Please note that these are early drafts. Some of them are lacking evidence entirely because they were a different version of the paper. What they are there for is to give you an idea of ideas, to show you what kind of topics people chose and how they began to analyze themselves. Because I think all the papers there are good examples of that. They're not necessarily good examples of final drafts, so please keep that in mind. All right, if you have any questions, of course, reach out. Otherwise, I'll put you into your peer review groups when the second draft comes in, and then we'll work on getting comments back from me. All right, take care.